So let's say you bring in a logo file and it has a background and you want to get rid of that background. You want just the logo. Well, that can happen in a number of different ways. I'm going to show you two examples in this lesson. We're going to start off by working with an Adobe Illustrator file that has a background layer. Let me show you how that works. I'm going to go over here to File, Import, File, and I have this example here, logo with background.ai. Double click on that, and because there's more than one layer, I get this dialog box because I have a multiple layer file here. And the best way to deal with this is to bring it in as footage. So right now I've got footage selected instead of composition. And in this case I'm going to merge the layers, which is not what I want to do, but I'm going to show you what happens when I do that and bring it in. And this particular Illustrator file has a background layer that's red. I'm going to drag it down to this insert logo layer here and put it above that one, like so. Not replace it, just put it above it. And you see we have this logo with a red background. That's because there's a separate layer inside this Illustrator file that is red. It's below the logo in the Illustrator file. I want to get rid of that. Well, it's really easy to do that when you've got a layered file like this. You can bring in just the layer you want. So I'm going to undo this. Control or Command Z a couple times to get rid of that file. And now I'll import it again. File, Import, File. Double click on this. Get that dialog box again. Choose footage again, but this time choose the layer. And I know in this particular instance that layer 1 is the logo layer, layer 2 is the background. So I just want the logo layer here like this and click OK. And it comes in without the background. And to show you this, I'm going to drag it above the logo file down here, like so. It'll be smaller because it's not been expanded as this one is. I'll drag it off to one side and there it is. And that red nonsense is gone now. So you can bring in just a layer and that'll take care of getting rid of whatever background might be in that file. Now if you have an Illustrator file with a whole bunch of layers and a background layer as well, it becomes a little bit more complicated. So in that case you want to talk to your graphic artist to have them fix that up so they can merge all the top layers together and get rid of that background just to simplify things for you. But now what happens if you have a bitmap file like a JPEG file that by default has a background? Well, that takes a little bit more work and we do that outside of After Effects. But let me show you what I mean first of all. Let me import another file here. File, Import, File. I'm going to bring in this JPEG file called logo with background JPEG. And it's not a multiple layer file, it's basically like an image file, so it just comes in as this flat thing. Let me add that to this comp down here, put it above everything else like so. And it's this thing with a green background. I'll pull back a bit on it by pressing the S key to scale back. That's what it looks like there. How do we get rid of that green? Well, we need to do this inside Photoshop, so let me show you how to do that. To get started, go File, Open, and track down that file there, right there, double click on it, and that brings it in. Now the typical process to get rid of a background like this inside Photoshop is to select it and delete it. Now the whole world of selecting things in Photoshop is like a course in itself. It's a very complex subject with many, many options. So I'm going to do a very simple approach here and not try to give you the whole Photoshop course here. What I want to do is I want to select that green and get rid of the green. So the first order of business is to convert this layer. It's called a background layer, which is a special kind of layer inside Photoshop. We need to convert it to a standard layer. You see that it's italicized there? It's not only named background, but the italics mean it's a special kind of layer that you really can't do too much editing to. So I double click on it, and then I can just accept this new name, layer 0, click OK, and notice it's no longer italicized. It's now just a standard layer. Now we can delete stuff on it. I want to delete the green. Well, this whole world of selection can be kind of complex, but in this case we're going to select a color, and that's fairly straightforward. To do that we use the magic wand tool. Like over here, there's a little group of tools here. These three sets of tools are selection tools. This one on the bottom has two tools in it. You see that little triangle there? When there's a triangle, that means you can click on it and hold it down, and you'll see all the tools there. There's a quick selection tool and a magic wand tool. The quick selection tool selects things based upon their edges. The magic wand tool selects things based upon color. So I click on that and it's now active. I hover over it, you see you get a little magic wand there. Now I've got my tolerance set to 2. That means when I select a color here, it's not going to select a wide spectrum of colors. It's going to be a very narrow spectrum, and this green is a solid green throughout, so that simplifies the process. So I just click here to select that color green, and we've got all those little things selected. See the marching ants going around there? Everything inside the set of marching ants from here to there, and around the letters here and around the box, those have all been now selected. And notice that we selected inside this box too, the green there, and the green in the trademark thing, and the green inside the E and the B. That's because Contiguous was turned off. Now contiguous is usually turned on by default, so you might have that turned on and wonder why you didn't select the stuff inside the closed areas like that. I'm going to undo this by going over here to the history, moving up to the make layer thing where we changed it from a background to a standard layer. And I'm going to turn on contiguous to see the difference now. I'll click here for the green again, and now this stuff here inside there is not selected. Not there either, not there, and not the trademark either. So it's best if you turn off contiguous. So I'll go back up here again, turn off contiguous, click on this again, and there you go. Now we've selected all that green. And now that it's selected, we can get rid of it by pressing the backspace key or the delete key. Gone. And the checkerboard tells you that you have a transparency there. I'm going to save this now as a Photoshop file. I could save it as some other kind of file that allows transparencies, but it's going to save automatically to a Photoshop file, so I might as well just do that. So I'm going to go File, Save, and it's going to open this up and say you want to save it as a PSD file. I do. I'll say background removed like this, and click Save. And you get this maximize compatibility thing here, which is fine. Click OK. And now we're done. I can close this or just minimize it. And we'll go back to After Effects. Now I'm going to get rid of these things that I brought in earlier. Click on that, delete it, this, delete it. And now import that newly created file. Go to File, Import, File, and there's that new file there, logo background removed PSD. Double click on that. I get this thing about footage again and merging layers, but in this case there's only one layer, but because it's a Photoshop file you get this message here. So we're going to bring it as footage. Merge layers is fine because there's only one layer anyways. So we'll click on merge layers and footage and click OK. And now I'm going to drag this down to our logo here above it, like so. And there it is. All that background stuff has been removed and it looks pretty good. The one little drawback to this though is that this is not a vector image file. If I blow it up, if I make it much, much larger, it'll start getting a little pixelated, a little soft. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go over here and click on the S key to open that up, and we'll scale it up like this. And you can see that things are kind of soft around the edges there. But that's what you get with a bitmap file, like a Photoshop file. You really can't scale it up too much. But in our case, this particular logo is already pretty large, so it wasn't going to be a problem. But in any event, now you know that if you have a file that has a background layer, there are a couple of different approaches you can take to get rid of that background.